The first sign was the silence. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It wasn't the kind of silence that hits you like a brick. No, it was the kind of silence that creeps in slowly, almost unnoticed, until one day you realize it's suffocating you. Her name is Marlowe, and we've been married for 4 years. You probably think that's enough time to know someone, right? But what if I told you that in those 4 years, I never really knew her at all? It wasn't until that one night, when she came home a little late, that I started to piece things together. You know, when you start paying attention to details that you've ignored for years, everything starts to look different. You notice the way she never answers your questions directly anymore, the way she avoids your eyes, the way she always seems to be somewhere else, physically in front of you, but mentally miles away. At first, I chalked it up to stress, to the endless grind of work and life. I was busy too. I didn't think to question it. After all, who am I to complain about a little distance in a marriage? Isn't that normal? But when the quiet stretches for too long, when the space between two people becomes a canyon, you can't ignore it any longer. That night, when Marlowe came home late, I wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary. I had stayed up, waiting, sitting on the couch with the lights dimmed, trying to find something worth watching. She had texted earlier saying she was out with a colleague, grabbing a late drink after a business event. I didn't think much of it. She worked in marketing, long hours, late nights. Nothing new there. What was new, though, was the way she walked in. Her face was flushed, but it wasn't the pleasant flush of someone who'd had a good time. It was the kind of flush that made me wonder if she was hiding something. "Hey," I said, standing up as she entered. I tried to keep my voice steady, but it came out wrong, tense, like I was already bracing for something that I couldn't even put into words. "Hey, sorry, I'm late," she replied, dropping her keys onto the counter and shrugging off her coat. She didn't look at me directly. Her eyes were fixed on the floor, her hands moving with practiced precision, as though the motions were more important than whatever conversation we were about to have. "No problem," I said, even though my gut twisted with that familiar sense of unease. I had been here before, but I couldn't explain why this felt different. She headed for the bathroom, and I heard the faint sound of water running as she washed her face. I stayed in the living room, trying to settle my nerves, but my mind raced with thoughts I couldn't quite control. The last few months had been filled with this odd, underlying tension between us, like a string pulled so taut it might snap any second. But I hadn't wanted to admit it. I didn't want to be the guy who saw ghosts in every shadow. When she came out of the bathroom, she sat down on the couch beside me, but there was still this distance, this invisible wall between us. "You look different," I said before I could stop myself. It sounded dumb as soon as the words left my mouth. But she caught it. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice sharp now. "Just not like yourself," I muttered. "I don't know. Maybe it's nothing." She looked at me then, really looked at me, as though she was trying to decide whether or not to say something. But then she just shook her head and gave me a weak smile. "Long day, that's all." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I didn't. There was something in her tone, something in her mannerisms, that said she was hiding something from me. I wasn't sure what it was, but I could feel it, like an itch I couldn't scratch. It wasn't until I found her phone the next day that everything came crashing down. She had left it on the kitchen counter, face up, with a message notification blinking on the screen. It was from a number I didn't recognize. I don't know what possessed me to check it. Maybe it was the alcohol from the night before still swimming in my veins, or maybe it was the fact that something in me had started to unravel piece by piece. I picked up the phone, my hands trembling. The message was brief, but it hit me like a punch to the stomach. "I'll be at your place at 7. Can't wait to see you again. T." I stared at it for what felt like hours, the room spinning around me. My heart hammered in my chest. T. Who the hell was T? I tried to steady my breath, but I couldn't. I set the phone down gently, like it was fragile, and looked at the clock. It was almost noon. Marlowe would be home in a few hours. I couldn't just sit there, pretending everything was fine. The knot in my stomach twisted tighter. I needed answers. So I waited. When she walked in that evening, I didn't even let her take off her coat. "Marlowe," I said, my voice hoarse. "Who's T?" Her face went white. For a moment, she didn't move, didn't breathe. "How do you?" she started, but her voice faltered, and she quickly snapped her mouth shut. "Who is T?" I repeated, my eyes locked on hers. And in that moment, I saw something I hadn't seen before: fear. Real, raw fear. Her hands shook as she reached for her bag, but I stopped her. I had to know. I'm sorry, Simon, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I never meant for it to happen like this. It's not what you think. But by then, I didn't care what she said. I just needed to know the truth. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just a simple misunderstanding. This wasn't just a bad phase in our marriage. No, this was the beginning of something much worse. I watched her face change as the words slipped out of her mouth. She tried to compose herself, but I saw the cracks. It was like something broke behind her eyes, and for a moment, she looked like a stranger. I never meant for it to happen like this. It's not what you think, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a step toward her, unable to tear my eyes away from her trembling hands. Then what is it, Marlowe? Whose tea? She closed her eyes, as if bracing herself for something. Her lips parted, but instead of answering, she collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. I could feel the tension building in the room, a pressure I couldn't escape. The silence between us felt suffocating. I took a deep breath, my mind spinning. Marlowe, we're married. If you can't even tell me who that person is, then stop. She cut me off sharply, her voice raw. She wiped her eyes, looking up at me with a mixture of guilt and something else I couldn't quite place. Please, just let me explain. I was on the verge of saying something I might regret, but I held back. Something told me that whatever she had to say would change everything. She took a shaky breath, then spoke, her words coming out slow and measured. It started about 6 months ago. I was at a work event, and I met someone. His name is Thomas. We just clicked. We talked about everything, life, work, personal stuff. I didn't plan it, I swear. It was just supposed to be an innocent friendship. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She had been talking to another man, and worse, it was someone she had met at work, someone I had never heard of. Why didn't you tell me about him? I asked, my voice tight with a mix of anger and disbelief. I didn't want to hurt you, she replied quietly. I didn't think it would go anywhere. But we started seeing each other. It was stupid, I know. It's a mistake I'll regret forever, but it happened. The room seemed to spin around me, as though the ground had been yanked from beneath me. Marlowe, the woman I trusted above anyone else, had been hiding this from me. I couldn't process it. So what? You've been cheating on me? I asked, my voice shaking. I wasn't thinking clearly, Simon, she said, her eyes filled with tears now. It wasn't like that. It was a few late-night calls, a few stolen moments when I should have been with you. It wasn't physical, I swear. But I was emotionally drawn to him, and I didn't know how to stop it. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to do anything to release the flood of emotions building inside me. But I couldn't. I just stood there, frozen in place, staring at the woman I thought I knew. I never meant to hurt you. You're the one I want, Simon, she said, her voice breaking. But I've been lost for so long, and I didn't know how to fix it. I don't even know if I can fix it now. The words hung in the air, thick with the weight of betrayal. She had admitted to emotional infidelity, had been flirting with this Thomas person, allowing herself to become attached, even if nothing physical had happened. But that didn't matter. It felt like my entire world had cracked apart. So what now? I asked, barely able to speak the words. Do you want to be with him? Are you leaving me for him? Marlowe shook her head violently, her eyes wide. No, it's not like that. I love you, Simon. I swear to God, I do. But I've made so many mistakes. I've been hiding from everything, from myself and from you. And now, I don't know if I can make it right. I don't know if I can ever make it right. I looked at her, feeling the weight of her words pressing down on me. I didn't know what to believe anymore. She had shattered my trust, and no matter how much she apologized, I couldn't unsee what she had done. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Why wait until now? Why wait until I found out? Because I was scared, she admitted. I didn't want to lose you, but I knew it was too late. I knew you'd never look at me the same way again. Her words cut deep, and for a moment, I wondered if she was right. Could I ever look at her the same way? Could I ever trust her again? I don't know what to say, I muttered, feeling numb. I don't know if I can do this. And that was the truth. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand she leave, to throw her out of the house. But another part of me, maybe the part that had loved her for so long, wanted to try and fix things, to find a way back to what we once had. But I didn't know if that was even possible. I didn't know if we could come back from this. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, saw the shame in her eyes as she told me everything. It was like the room was closing in on me, the walls pressing in with every breath. I didn't know if I could forgive her, but I couldn't shake the part of me that still loved her, the part of me that didn't want to give up on us. The next morning, Marlowe tried to talk to me. She kept saying how sorry she was, how she would do anything to make it right, but the words felt empty. I couldn't hear them the same way anymore. Each apology felt like a lie because the truth was, she had already crossed a line. She sat across from me at the breakfast table, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her mug, her eyes constantly darting up to mine before looking away. "Simon," she began, her voice quiet, almost pleading, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect everything to go back to normal. But I need you to know I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you." I stared at her, the weight of her betrayal still fresh in my chest. "Then why did you do it?" The question hung between us, sharper than any accusation. She opened her mouth, but the words didn't come. She looked down at her hands, then back at me, her face pale. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know how it happened." I exhaled sharply. The frustration inside me boiled over. "You don't know? Marlowe, this isn't just something that happens by accident. This is a choice. A series of choices." She flinched at my words, her eyes filling with tears. I felt a sick mix of anger and pity. "I never meant for you to find out this way," she said. "I never wanted to hurt you. But it didn't matter. The damage was done." I stood up, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I need time," I said, my voice low and steady. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I couldn't make any decisions right now. I had to clear my head, even if it meant walking away from her for a while. She didn't try to stop me. She just sat there, staring at the table. And I walked out. The cool air outside felt like a slap in the face, like I was waking up from a nightmare. I had always prided myself on being rational, on being someone who could face the hard truths. But this was a reality I wasn't ready for. The betrayal, the lies, the hollow apologies, it was all too much. As I walked down the street, my mind raced. What now? Could I really go on living with her, knowing what she had done? Could I trust her again? I kept thinking about that message on her phone, the one from T. She said it was emotional, nothing physical. But how could I believe that? How could I ever know for sure? I needed answers. But every time I tried to picture her with him, every time I imagined her laughing with Thomas, something inside me broke a little more. Marlowe had been my everything. And now? I wasn't sure if she was even the person I thought I married. I had no idea where I was walking, but my feet kept moving. Maybe I needed to get lost for a while. Maybe I needed to disappear into the chaos of the world to stop myself from thinking about all the things that were falling apart. I didn't know how long I walked for, but eventually, I found myself in front of a bar. It wasn't a place I normally went, but something about it felt like a good place to hide, to drown the noise in my head with something stronger than my thoughts. I sat at the bar, ordered a drink, and tried to clear my mind. But the more I tried to distract myself, the more her face kept flashing in my mind. I couldn't escape it. And then, as if the universe were toying with me, I heard a voice behind me. "Simon." I turned slowly, and there she was. Clara, the last person I expected to see, and yet somehow, I wasn't surprised. She had always known how to find me, even when I thought I was hiding. "Clara," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I hadn't seen her in over a year, but I knew her face like I knew my own. It was a face I'd once loved more than anything. She smiled, but it wasn't the same smile. It was colder, more distant. "I didn't expect to see you here. I thought you'd be home, working things out with Marlowe." My stomach twisted. "What are you doing here?" Clara shrugged, sitting down beside me. "I heard about what happened. I guess I just wanted to check in on you." I didn't know how to react. The last time I saw Clara, everything was fine. Or, at least, it seemed fine. We were friends. We had been for years. But now, her presence only made the tension in the room thicker. "You know about Marlowe?" I asked, a hint of disbelief in my voice. Clara nodded. "I've heard things. You're not the only one who's been keeping secrets, Simon." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "What are you talking about?" She leaned in closer, her voice low, almost conspiratorial. "There's more to the story than you think. Marlowe's not the only one hiding something." I stared at her, trying to make sense of her words. "What do you mean?" Clara smiled, but it wasn't reassuring. "Trust me, Simon. You have no idea what's really been going on." Clara's words hung in the air, thick with a promise of something I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. My heart skipped a beat, the weight of her gaze making it hard to breathe. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice strained, the unease crawling up my spine. She leaned in even closer, her eyes glinting with a mix of curiosity and something darker. "I've seen the way Marlowe's been acting lately. The late nights, the secretive texts. She's not just confused about you, Simon. She's been hiding something bigger." I wanted to laugh, to brush her off as some overdramatic gossip, but something in her tone stopped me. Clara wasn't one to speak without reason. She never had been. "What are you trying to say?" I asked again, my pulse quickening. Clara took a deep breath and straightened up. "You think it's just Thomas, don't you? You think it's just an emotional affair." She paused, studying my face. "But it's more than that. There's another person, someone who's been in the background, pulling strings." I froze. "What are you talking about? Who?" She hesitated before speaking again. "I've seen the way she looks at him. The way she talks about him when she thinks you're not around. You're not the only one who's been kept in the dark, Simon. There's a lot you don't know about Marlowe's life." Her words hit like a punch. I could feel the room spin, the noise in my head drowning out the bar's ambience. "Who is he?" I finally asked, my voice barely audible. Clara's eyes darted around, as if making sure no one else was listening. "I think his name is Eric," she said, her voice low, almost like a confession. "He's someone from her past. Someone she's been seeing more than you realize." My stomach dropped. Eric? I had never heard that name before. Never once had Marlowe mentioned anyone by that name. "I don't know the details," Clara continued, "but I've seen the way she reacts when his name comes up. It's like she's hiding something from you, something big." I wanted to scream. How could I not have noticed any of this? How could I have been so blind to the truth? But then again, maybe it wasn't about being blind. Maybe I had just chosen not to see what was right in front of me. "I need to talk to her," I muttered, already feeling my legs tense, ready to move. But Clara grabbed my arm, stopping me. "Don't," she said firmly. "Not yet. You need to think this through. Marlowe's not the only one who's been playing games. You have to figure out who you can trust first, Simon. And trust me, it's not her." The weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of clarity. Maybe Clara wasn't just trying to get under my skin. Maybe she was trying to help me see something I had missed. "Think about it," Clara said, her voice softer now, almost sympathetic. "What if everything you know about your marriage is a lie? What if you're not just dealing with a little betrayal, but something much deeper?" I swallowed hard, fighting back the rising tide of emotion. "I don't know what to believe anymore." "Then figure it out," Clara replied, her gaze locking onto mine. "Because the truth has a way of showing itself when you least expect it." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to confront Marlowe right then, to demand answers. But another part of me, maybe the part that was still holding on to the woman I thought I knew, wanted to ignore everything Clara had just told me. But I couldn't. I couldn't ignore the growing suspicion in my chest, the nagging feeling that something was terribly wrong. I left the bar without another word, my mind swirling with questions. Who was Eric? Why hadn't Marlowe told me about him? And why was Clara suddenly so willing to share all of this with me? What was her angle? I didn't have answers, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to stay in the dark any longer. I didn't wait. I couldn't. The questions in my mind were growing louder, pounding against my skull like a drum. Clara's words echoed in my ears as I walked back to the apartment. Eric. The hidden truths. The way Marlowe had been acting like she was keeping a secret from me, something bigger than I could even imagine. When I got home, the apartment was eerily quiet. I stood in the doorway for a moment, listening for any sign of her. My mind raced, every thought a whirlwind of confusion and betrayal. She was in the kitchen when I finally saw her, standing with her back to me, washing dishes. The sight of her made my chest tighten. She looked so normal, so unaffected. But I knew it was all an illusion now. I took a deep breath before speaking. Marlowe, we need to talk. She froze. I could tell she heard the tone in my voice, the seriousness of it. Slowly, she turned around. What's wrong, Simon? She asked, trying to mask the anxiety in her eyes with a forced smile. I couldn't let her hide behind that smile anymore. I walked toward her, my steps purposeful. I know about Eric, I said, my voice cold. Her face went pale. For a split second, she looked like she had been caught, but she quickly recovered. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice shaky. "You don't have to lie to me," I said, watching her carefully. "Clara told me everything." She bit her lip, avoiding my gaze. "Simon, this isn't what you think. It's not like that. Eric was someone from my past, someone I haven't seen in years." "But you've been hiding things from me," I shot back. "Late nights, secretive messages. And now this?" She swallowed, her eyes flickering to the floor. "I didn't want you to find out like this. I didn't want to hurt you." "You've already hurt me, Marlowe," I said, the words coming out more sharply than I intended. "You've been hiding so much from me. All these little secrets, they add up." She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "I swear, I never meant for it to get this far." I was confused. I didn't know how to handle everything. I never thought I'd fall into something like this. "And you never thought I'd find out?" I asked bitterly. "No," she whispered, almost too quietly to hear. "I thought I could control it. I thought I could keep everything separate." I shook my head, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on me. "How long has this been going on, Marlowe? How long have you been hiding Eric from me?" She hesitated. "A few months," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I swear, nothing physical ever happened. It was just emotional, just talking. I never wanted to hurt you." A part of me wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that it was just a mistake. But another part of me, one that had been crushed by her lies, couldn't ignore the truth. "You've been lying to me this whole time," I said, stepping back. "And I've been blind to it." She reached out to me, but I pulled away. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know what else to say. I love you, Simon. I never wanted to hurt you." But it didn't matter. Love wasn't enough anymore. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. Love isn't enough when there's nothing left to trust. I muttered, my voice barely audible. I walked out without another word, the door clicking shut behind me. I couldn't sit still. The apartment felt like a cage, the walls closing in with every passing second. I had just confronted Marlowe, and even though the words had left my mouth, they still hung in the air. What did it mean now? What was I supposed to do with all of this? I grabbed my jacket and left the apartment, hoping to clear my head. The city was alive around me, but I felt disconnected from it all. I walked for hours, the weight of everything pressing down harder than I thought possible. Clara's warning, the secret messages, the hidden life Marlowe had kept from me. It was like I was living someone else's nightmare. Just as I was beginning to feel like I might drown in the noise of my own thoughts, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from Marlowe. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, my finger hovering over the open button. I hadn't replied to her since our confrontation earlier, and part of me wondered if I should just ignore it. But I couldn't. I opened the message. "Marlowe, I know you're angry. But please, Simon, just talk to me. We need to figure this out. You're all I have left." The words hit me like a punch. I didn't know if I could talk to her. I didn't know if I even wanted to. But the part of me that still cared, still loved her, felt the pull to answer. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. This time, the message wasn't from Marlowe. "Unknown number. I know what you're going through, Simon. But there's something else you need to hear." I froze. Who was this? How did they know about me, about Marlowe? I stared at the screen, my mind racing. What did they mean by something else? I glanced around, trying to make sense of it all, but the streetlights blurred into a haze. I typed back, my fingers shaking slightly. "Me, who is this? How do you know me?" A few seconds passed, and then the reply came. "Unknown number. This is about Marlowe. You don't know everything, but you will. I'll meet you in 20 minutes. Be at the cafe on 5th and Elm." I stared at the message, feeling a rush of unease. Who was this person? Why would they reach out to me now, when everything was falling apart? My heart pounded in my chest, but curiosity won out. I had to know what this was about. I didn't know if I was making a mistake, but something told me I needed to meet this person. Maybe they had the answers I'd been desperately searching for. I made my way to the cafe, my mind a whirlwind of questions. What was this person going to tell me? What else was I missing about Marlowe? I couldn't stop thinking about Clara's words, how there was more to this story than I realized. When I arrived at the cafe, I didn't see anyone waiting. It was quiet, almost too quiet for a Friday night. I glanced around, but no one seemed to notice me. Then, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned quickly, my pulse spiking, only to find a man standing behind me. He was dressed casually, but there was something about the way he held himself that made me uneasy. You Simon? He asked, his voice low, almost guarded. I nodded. Who are you? What do you want? He glanced around before stepping closer. You don't know me, but I know you. And I know everything about Marlowe. His words sent a chill down my spine. My heart hammered in my chest as the man spoke, his words hanging in the air like a threat. You know everything about Marlowe? I repeated, my voice tight. I couldn't tell if I was more scared or curious. Who are you? Why are you doing this? He glanced over his shoulder, as if checking for anyone watching. I'm not your enemy, he said, his voice low. But you're not seeing the whole picture. Marlowe's hiding something much bigger than you realize. I didn't know whether to run or stay and listen, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this stranger knew something I didn't. I took a step closer, trying to read his face. What are you talking about? The man hesitated, then sighed, as though he had been holding something in for a long time. It's about Eric, isn't it? The man she's been seeing behind your back. But it's not just him. There's more. I took a step back, my stomach turning. Eric was bad enough, but now he was telling me there was more? My head spun with confusion. What more? What are you trying to say? The man lowered his voice even further, his eyes darkening. I'm not just talking about some affair. Marlowe's involved in something much deeper. Something dangerous. Eric isn't just some guy she met at work. He's tied to something criminal. And she's been playing a part in it. A big part. I felt the blood drain from my face. Criminal? What do you mean? He glanced around again, ensuring no one could overhear. Marlowe's been involved in a scam. A large-scale operation. Eric's just a piece of it. She's been laundering money for him, helping him move things behind your back. My mind couldn't process the words fast enough. Money laundering? Marlowe, the woman I loved, was involved in something like that? No. I whispered, shaking my head. That doesn't make sense. She's a project manager. She's not like that. The man's expression hardened. You think you know her? You think you really know what she's capable of? Marlowe's not who you think she is. She's in deep, Simon. And she's been using you to cover her tracks. I felt dizzy, like the world around me was collapsing. How do you know all of this? Why are you telling me this? I'm trying to help you, he said, his tone softer now. I'm not the bad guy here. You need to get out of this before it's too late. Marlowe isn't the woman you think she is. She's dangerous, Simon. And so is Eric. If you keep pushing her, things could get ugly. You don't know what they're capable of. I didn't know what to believe anymore. This man's words were a cold slap in the face, but they felt too specific to be a lie. Everything he was saying about Marlowe didn't fit the woman I thought I knew. But what if it was true? What if she had been hiding something far more sinister than I could ever imagine? I took a deep breath, my hands shaking. What do you want from me? He looked at me with a strange intensity. I'm not here to make demands. But I want you to understand something. If you don't take action, things will spiral out of control. You have to decide what you want, Simon. Do you want the truth, no matter how ugly it is? Or do you want to stay in the dark, pretending everything is fine? I felt my stomach churn, the weight of his words pressing down on me. I had already lost my trust in Marlowe, but now this? Money laundering? Criminal connections? It didn't make sense, but at the same time, it did. There were pieces I hadn't seen, and now they were starting to fall into place. The man stepped back, his face softening slightly. I'm giving you a chance, Simon. Don't waste it. Without another word, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the night. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, trying to process what had just happened. My entire world was shifting beneath me, and I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know what to do, but one thing was certain. I couldn't go back to the way things were. I stood in the empty cafe for a long time, the words of the stranger echoing in my head. Money laundering? Criminal involvement? It was a story I couldn't believe, but a part of me couldn't ignore the truth that seemed to be staring me right in the face. I walked back to the apartment, feeling like a stranger in my own life. The weight of everything that had happened, Marlowe's betrayal, the strange man's revelations, felt like it was suffocating me. But despite all of it, there was still a sliver of hope that I couldn't shake. I reached the apartment, my heart racing. I needed answers, and I needed them now. No more half-truths. No more hiding. If Marlowe was involved in something bigger, something dangerous, I had to know. When I opened the door, Marlowe was sitting on the couch, her face a mixture of exhaustion and guilt. She looked up as I entered, her eyes widening. She'd been waiting for me. I could tell. Simon, she whispered, standing up slowly. I was hoping you'd come back. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. We need to talk, I said, my voice firm. I know everything. Her face fell. You talked to him, didn't you? Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. I nodded. I don't know what's going on, Marlowe, but I need the truth. No more lies. No more secrets. She stood there for a moment, as if weighing her options. Then she let out a long sigh and sat back down on the couch. You're right, she said quietly. I've been hiding things from you. Things I should have told you a long time ago. I sat down next to her, my heart pounding. What things? She took a deep breath. It's not as bad as you think. Eric, he's not who you think he is. He's not just some guy I've been seeing. I did get involved in something, but it wasn't what you're imagining. I watched her, my mind racing. What do you mean? She looked down at her hands, trying to find the right words. I got involved in a charity project, money laundering, yes, but it was supposed to be a one-time thing to help with a few legal loopholes for a friend. I didn't think it was that serious. I never realized how far things had gone. Eric was just someone who helped me get out of it, someone who knew people in the right places. I sat back, my chest tight. So you weren't trying to deceive me? You weren't hiding behind lies? No, she said, shaking her head. I wasn't trying to hurt you, Simon. I made mistakes, yes. But I swear, nothing happened with Eric. I never betrayed you like that. I was just caught up in something I didn't know how to get out of. I looked at her, trying to process her words. There was no way to undo the past, no way to fix the hurt. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe there was a chance. Maybe I could still trust her again. I took her hand in mine, feeling the warmth of it, and for a brief moment, I let myself believe in the possibility of rebuilding. Marlowe, I don't know if I can forgive you for everything, but I want to try. I want to believe in us again. Her eyes filled with tears, and she squeezed my hand. I don't deserve that chance, Simon, but I'll do anything to prove that I can make it right. I love you, and I don't want to lose you. In that moment, I realized something. Trust wasn't something that came back easily. It would take time, effort, and understanding. But I wasn't ready to give up just yet. We'd both made mistakes, but that didn't mean it had to end here. Maybe this wasn't the ending I had expected, but it was an opportunity for a new beginning. And that was enough for me. We sat there in silence for a while, the weight of our past hanging in the air, but also the possibility of a future. Together.